A very warm good morning to one and all. Electric mobility is often spoken about in terms of numbers. Number of vehicles sold, number of chargers installed, number of megawatts added. But at its heart, electric mobility is about something far more human. It's about confidence, confidence to travel without anxiety. It's about choice, choice to move smarter, cleaner, and quieter. And above all, it's about systems, the systems that work silently in the background, making sustainable choices feel effortless. I am Sini John. As the team lead of the EV Accelerator Cell, I am privileged to share how KSEBL, through its EV Accelerator Cell, is shaping not just a charging infrastructure, but a resilient, inclusive, and future-ready EV ecosystem for our state. The title of the presentation is From Infrastructure to Ecosystem. Yes, the journey has evolved. We began with building chargers, but now we are building confidence, coordination, and capability. And the EV Accelerator Cell is a quiet engine behind the transition. E-mobility story of Kerala is truly inspiring and instructive. With more than 3.1 lakh green vehicles on roads, we now account for about 5% of the new EV registrations in the country and about 12% of the new four-wheeler EVs in the country. Thus, we stand at the third position nationally, despite our smaller geographical footprint. What do these figures tell us? Kerala is not experimenting with EVs, but Kerala is adopting EVs with conviction. And such conviction demands equally strong systems beneath it. Today, the EV charging ecosystem of Kerala is a collective effort of KSEBL, the state nodal agency for charging infrastructure, other government agencies, and private players. Within this ecosystem, KSEBL has played the role of an early enabler, ensuring reach, reliability, and grid availability at a time when the EV market itself was still evolving. KSEBL started its fast charging journey as early as 2020. The 63 fast charging stations spread across all the districts were not planned merely as electrical installations, but as confidence builders, assuring the EV users and the potential EV buyers that long-distance travel across Kerala is not only possible, but also practical. Equally important is our network of pole-mounted charging stations deployed across all the constituencies. A national-level innovative project supporting mainly two-wheelers and three-wheelers. This deployment has enabled KSEBL to create an extensive network, one of the most extensive network in the country by a DISCOM. Through these projects, national awards came to the state twice, etching a proud chapter in the state's EV history. But more valuable is the experience we gained, the experience which allows us to plan better, regulate smarter, and anticipate future needs with confidence. The EV accelerator cell was established in KSEBL headquarters with the approval of Bureau of Energy Efficiency, the central nodal agency for charging infrastructure under Ministry of Power, Government of India. The cell serves as a technical center for e-mobility in KSEBL, supporting infrastructure planning, policy formulation, and demand forecasting. The cell also serves as a bridge across the EV ecosystem, ensuring government priorities, utility planning, and private players all move in the same direction. With the accelerated adoption, some challenges became visible, not as failures, but as signals for evolution. Fragmented discoverability across multiple mobile apps, absence of standardized payment interface, limited amenities for the EV users at the charging stations, and lack of real-time charging data for utility. In order to address these challenges, EV Accelerator Cell has formulated a smart public EV charging guidelines for the state. The philosophy is simple. Charging should be visible, inclusive, intuitive, and interoperable. These guidelines focus on enhanced discoverability, standardized interfaces, at least one app-free and mobile wallet-free payment mechanism, and real-time data sharing with utilities, enabling better grid planning. The guidelines are now under review of the Government of Kerala. I am happy and proud to announce that KSEBL has successfully implemented an AI-enabled, artificial intelligence-enabled, app-free and wallet-free charging system at our Palarivattam charging station in Ernakulam. With refresh and recharge model, we go beyond the idea of charging stations as utility assets. We envisage them as public energy spaces with amenities like cafes, restrooms, Wi-Fi, workspaces, and thoughtful design. The intent is clear. While the vehicles are charging, people should feel refreshed, safe, and welcome. In collaboration with IIT Bombay, a pioneer in V2X technologies in the country, we are implementing, KSEBL is implementing a vehicle-to-grid V2G pilot project in Kerala. This initiative explores a future where EVs are not mere consumers of power, but active participants in grid stability. With phased studies and pilot implementation, we are preparing Kerala grid for future shaped by renewables, flexibility, and intelligent energy flows. Our vision is clear. A Kerala where choosing an EV feels natural. Charging is effortless. Systems are intelligent and human-centric. EV Accelerator Cell will be working quietly behind the scenes, aligning policy, technology, and power systems to make this vision real. India is dreaming of becoming carbon neutral by 2070. Kerala is dreaming of becoming net zero by 2050. Let's all work together to make this happen. Let me conclude with my favorite quote by Eleanor Roosevelt: "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for setting the context on the institutional and strategic role of the EV Accelerator Cell. I now invite Mr. Sajan Ismail, Assistant Nodal Officer and Specialist EV Accelerator Cell, KSEBL, to make his presentation on spearheading Kerala's EV transition through PME Drive. So, please.
Good morning, everyone. Today, I would like to thank, first of all, ICCT for organizing this wonderful program on PME Drive. So we are talking about this for quite a long time, and we have already witnessed how Kerala is actually emerging as one of the leaders in electric vehicle, and yesterday we won the award for gold when it comes to passenger vehicles. Already Puneet Kumar sir has told us in the morning. And in the same time, and when it comes to the charging infrastructure, Kerala has been a front runner for some time. And in what we as Kerala State Electricity Board's EV Accelerator Cell, what we're doing, Sini Madam has already explained to you what all things we're doing. Now in my presentation, I would like to be very specific what all works we have done and understood, and what kind of infrastructure development actually we needed in the upcoming future in order to make Kerala completely ready for EV charging infrastructure, leveraging the newly announced PM E-Drive scheme. So I would like to emphasize the importance of e-mobility in Kerala. You can see that this is actually the GHG inventory, greenhouse gas emission report, that is published by the Ministry of Climate Change, Ministry of Environment, Climate, Government of Kerala, where you can see the transport actually contributes the maximum emission, that is 48.51% in Kerala. So basically, Kerala has a target of achieving net zero by 2050, contrary to the 2070 target of Government of India. For achieving that, the major criteria that we need to adopt is convert the conventional fossil-fired vehicles to electric. So the conversion in transportation itself will contribute to the major change to decarbonization in the state. So this slide you have already seen how Kerala has emerged as one of the major states in India with a lot of adoption in electric vehicle charging infrastructure. And KSEB, of course, started as the foundation pillar with the setting up 63 fast charging stations in 2020 onwards, further pole-mounted charging infrastructure as well. Now, this is what we already know. Based on this, we have conducted a lot of assessments and studies with the help of renowned institutions like Rocky Mountain Institute and ICCT, Smart Freight Center, etc. So what the first study we did is the assessment of the existing charging infrastructure in Kerala. What we did is our team has extensively collaborated with all the CBOs in the state, and they were fortunate enough to give us information, how many charging infrastructure is there, what capacity is there, all these data we collected. Then what we did is, all the data we collected, we kept in a spatial mapping. That actually gave us an idea where all these charges are actually kept. Then we did a heat map analysis for understanding the clustering and how the concentration of PCCs actually been deployed across the state. And finally, the road corridors of the state has been assessed as per the MOP guidelines to understand the availability of this public infrastructure for the intercity travel pattern. This is the basic idea how we did it for the entire state. So the spatial mapping of DC fast charging stations look like this. And when it comes to heat map, this is the second slide. And finally, we did a 20 kilometer by 20 kilometer grid assessment on how the charging infrastructure is actually being placed. And going deep, we have gone through each and every district, starting from Trivandrum to Kasaragod. I'll just give you the glimpses of a couple of districts, what we did is. Let's say, we did this study in June 2025. At that time, we calculated that 89 fast charging stations are there in Kochi, Ernakulam city, Ernakulam district as a lot. And from the basic understanding, we understood that all the chargers are actually concentrated in NH66, and some of them are in SH1 and another major corridor, NH544. The clustering of these charging stations are actually occurring in places like Kochi Corporation, Marad, Edappalli and Cochin Airport. But other highways like NH 966A, B, SH42, SH63, and there is a major highway like NH 85, that is actually Kodamangalam to Munnar, which is one of the major tourist spots in the state, which is actually heavily underserved considering the kind of transportation demand that is actually occurring for electric vehicles. Same study when we assessed in Trivandrum district compared to Cochin, the number of DC fast charging stations is slightly lesser, but again the concentration is on NH66 and the SH1, that is the MC road. Apart from that, the presence of charging stations in eastern side of the district is very, very low. And another thing we identified is like another tourist hotspot like Ponmudi, which is heavily underserved, that particular area. And SH2 and SH3, these are another couple of highways that we identified as underserved areas. So this is what the basic understanding we started on the fast charging network that is available in the state, to have a firm understanding, so what is actually lacking for the state. From that understanding, we identified these 4 inferences. Number 1 is, of course, the majority of the charging infrastructure is actually concentrated on road corridors or urban centers. The dense concentration is always there. Another part is the western side, basically the NH66, where is actually in the western side of the state, the maximum population of charging infrastructure is there, and the eastern part is heavily underserved. Something that in the inaugural address, Honorable Additional Chief Secretary has very specifically mentioned. We have enough 60 kilowatt and 30 kilowatt charging infrastructure in the state, but what we lack is 120 kilowatt and 240. That is a high capacity charging infrastructure. That is the need of the hour. That is the third thing that we identified. Finally, the charging stations catering to buses and e-trucks, that's very less, except for the Kerala State Transport Corporation's on depot charging. There is no such public charging infrastructure available for electric buses or trucks. Now, from that point, we are coming to an understanding, what do Kerala need? What does Kerala need? Number 1 is corridors, green corridors. So developing a green corridor, let us say NH544 or NH66, whichever corridor is, when you are stepping into that particular corridor, you should feel that it's a green corridor and you will never find a problem in traveling across the state in that particular corridor. Number 2, what we find is, already I told this, high capacity fast charger. This is something that is extremely relevant when it comes to interstate or intrastate travel, in the district travel patterns. This is very, very important, considering the new vehicles that's been emerging in the state, like those vehicles which are actually demanding 120 kilowatt capacity directly. So high new vehicles that's coming, even the passenger segment. So this is very much a need of the hour. And finally, the equitable spatial distribution of charges across the state. So that is like Transport Commissioner already said that Kerala is one big city and it's not a state. So the distribution of charging infrastructure is required in every part of the state, not just in NH66, NH54, any other urban or areas. It should be available every part of the state so that equitable distribution can be ensured. So these are the points that we identified. Then we conducted few studies along with regarding the corridor electrification. Like I said, we conducted the studies with RMI and ICCT. I would like to thank them before presenting this, because extensive study we have conducted in this regard. The first thing is Kochi-Coimbatore. As you will know, Kochi-Coimbatore road is very important, and this is being considered as one of the major route for interstate movement of goods between Kerala and Tamil Nadu. This is the important thing is there is a two-way travel. It's not just it's coming from Tamil Nadu to Kerala. It's going back to Tamil Nadu also. So the movement is quite big, and 146 kilometers of NH544 is actually in Kerala. And this particular corridor is actually identified as one of the priority corridors for developing zero-emission truck program by the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor and the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. So this thing you can see, we have done a few analysis on this, and we identified few points where the charging infrastructure should be considered for electric trucks and buses. Like, I'm not going in deep into this. This study we have not published as of now. We are actually extensively working on it, considering the existing charging infrastructure that is available in the state, existing transmission lines, the substation capacity, the feasibility augmentation possibilities, and the proposals that we have submitted to Government of India under category A and B of the PM E-Drive. So all these points considering, we identified 3 points for electric bus and trucks. And we find that these are ideal sports, and I would like to urge all the CPOs here to have a look into this. And if you are ready to come and invest in this point, it will be ideal for you. And Ministry of Heavy Industries is very keen when you are submitting a proposal under PM E-Drive, you should give a very detailed feasibility analysis whether it will work or not. I'll come to that later. Now, similarly, we did an analysis on NH66, where our collaborator is ICCT, who are actually organizing this function. And NH66, you can see, it is the largest highway in the state. Of course, 650 kilometers of the state is actually under NH66. And the priority, you see, 3 cities. As we always know, Kerala has 3 major cities, Trivandrum, Kochi, and Kozhikode. And it has been understood that these are the 3 major areas where we actually need the truck stops, charging infrastructure for truck. And further identifying the truck stop areas, which actually, this is actually a study conducted by ICCT based on the truck movement GPS system. Based on that, where are actually the truck stop areas in NH66 in Kochi, and 2 particular locations already identified as major points. Like you can see the heat map there, lower utility and higher utility. The red colored marks means maximum truck stops are happening there, especially Kalamassery, Edayar and Vallarpadam, as identified as the 2 major points. But all these hexagon, you can see all of them are pit stops only. But based on the many factors, we are prioritizing them. Now, another one is Calicut. Kochi, after that, Calicut is a very important area where we have identified 2 points, like in Ramanattukara and Kozhikode, based on the substation availabilities and other factors. These 2 points as the major truck stop areas where we could actually consider setting up high capacity charging infrastructure, which will actually cater to the kind of demand which require. Similarly, in Trivandrum, when we assessed, it has more points, surprisingly, rather than Calicut and Kochi. Trivandrum, Vizhinjam, it's going to be a new hub for trucks, basically. Now, the possibility of electric trucks will also be very high, considering the international seaport is available there. So, the major point I would like to tell here is, even though we identified all these points and we are putting high capacity charging stations for electric truck, the manufacturers, the logistics partners, whichever industries they are, they should also be ready to convert to electric vehicles, electric trucks. Then only the idea of getting the kind of demand by putting this infrastructure will actually come into play. So the barrier for implementation when it comes to high capacity charging infrastructure is something that we studied based on this whole exercise. And we identified that when you are setting up a 1 megawatt charging station, let's say 240 kilowatt, 480, 360, whatever high capacity charging infrastructure you're setting up for electric trucks, buses or whatever, the kind of cost that incur on the upstream infrastructure is very heavy. This is an indicative figure that I'm showing here. This could be 60%, 80%, but average, whenever we calculate, is coming as 70%. So this is a big barrier for a CPO or whoever is investing. This is a big problem. And that we identified. That's why heavy capacity charging infrastructure is not available in the state. So whoever is investing, when they have the ROI calculation in the table, they will be hesitant to go forward with this kind of a project. So this major challenge we identified. Unfortunately, the Government of India has announced a solution for this. That is PM E-Drive scheme. And I'm just coming to PM E-Drive scheme. Kerala State Electricity Board has been appointed as the state nodal agency for the PM E-Drive implementation on 16/10/2025. So I'll just give you an idea of what is PM E-Drive categorization on locations, those who don't know about this. Government of India has very clearly demonstrated an operational guidelines through Ministry of Heavy Industries. What are the categories that's come under the PM E-Drive scheme? The category A is mostly for government locations. not every government locations doesn't include there. They have actually modified it, and there will be a FAQ that will be released shortly. It will further explain whether your location actually qualifies for category A. And Government of India is actually a little hesitant to give all locations to category A. And every state has been asked to restrict to 20% of the total submission into category A. Because this is actually given for headquarters, those places there is actually a scarcity of demand should be there. And that investment will be supported by Government of India. Now category B will come from like all the public sector undertakings, like the KTDC, KSRTC, all this will come under category B. Now coming to the main part, category C, where actually the public go for charging infrastructure is private locations, mainly all private locations, malls, office complexes, hospitals, private petrol pumps, whatever it is. So these places, this has been actually considered as category C, and category D is for battery swapping stations. The subsidy component that actually Government of India gives for these categories is category A, 100% as mentioned earlier. Category B is upstream infrastructure 80% and supply equipment side 70%. And category C, it is 80% on the upstream infrastructure. That is what I want to point again. So the problem we already identified, the cost of upstream infrastructure, that is actually limiting the CPOs to invest. So where the 80% upstream costing that could be given as subsidy by Government of India could actually a game changer, could be a game changer. So the upstream infrastructure, what very clearly BE has notified, the distribution transformers, the LTHT cables, the distribution boxes, circuit breakers, even the fencing and civil works and the PCC mounting structures are all being included in the upstream infrastructure, which can be claimed by any CPO if that location is actually approved by MHI. So as part of the PM E-Drive scheme, KSEBL has started working and submitted a couple of proposals already. And in phase 1 and phase 2 altogether, we submitted 341 locations, and actually which is under review by MHI, and they have asked to submit a lot of clarifications on it. And MHI is very keen on submitting the feasibility analysis of each location. They are not going to give you money simply to set up a station and keep it there without running. It's very, with the experience of running charging infrastructure by government institutions, oil marketing companies, they're very keen that CPOs should come and play the main role, because CPOs are in the business of running charging infrastructure and they should be able to run it properly. So that's the perception, and we are also having the same perception only. So we would like to support all the CPOs. And the implementation part of this is not finalized. Again, once we'll have all the government locations, fortunately all the government institutions in the state has supported us in submitting the proposal. The maximum number of locations, BSNL has given us a lot of locations, KSRTC has given us a lot of locations, KTDC, KLMD, CRSR has given us a very good space. So like a lot of government institutions, Keltron, everyone was like very forward into this and supported us with this. And this location we will be considering only after the approval of Government of India. Now, for the phase 3, we want the CPOs to be part of this. So these locations, wherever you are setting up charging infrastructure, we will be calling for an expression of interest, which is actually ready, which will be called at any time. Due to the model code of conduct, we have actually restrained it for some time. Now this has been lifted and we'll be calling it as soon as possible. And the Honorable Minister will be launching this portal, web portal for actually registering the CPOs. And it's a very transparent process through which we'll be identifying the eligible CPOs, and you can yourself check your eligibility. And once you are being eligible for this particular submission, you can start submitting your proposal to through the portal, and we'll be consolidating, but a lot of data you should submit along with it, the feasibility assessment, a lot of things that will come in detail in the expression of interest, and we'll call a pre-consultation meeting along with it. So you don't have to worry about any of the questions that you may have right now. So EOI will come and it will give you a very clear clarity, and we have actually prepared it with only one intent: come and invest in Kerala, and we'll try to get you maximum subsidy as possible for all the charge point operators. And we want everyone to be part of it, not just one or two CPOs, so that there will be a wide diversity of operators, and availability of charging infrastructure, and a competitive market will also evolve in the CPO segment. Now, the feasibility assessment and demand estimation will be providing you a statement where you will have to give whichever CPO, when you are proposing a location, you should be very clear about these aspects. These are some of the indicative figures that we have given. So whatever mechanism that could suggest you that this is going to be a substantial location and where you can actually put a charging infrastructure and it will run well. That kind of an idea should be conceived by MHI, and when you are submitting, you should be very clear about that. So an example will show you, Paritipara is one of the locations we have already charging infrastructure. This location we have actually chosen because this is very close to a major junction called Keshavadasurapuram in Trivandrum city. That is 800 meters from that only, and it actually abuts the arterial road of SH1, that is MC road, which is the major road that's actually connecting Trivandrum to Angamali through the Kottayam road. So this site we have identified as ideal for charging infrastructure, considering the space availability, considering the actual placement of the location. Like that, whenever you are coming up with your location, you should be very clear about that. So that's the only thing that we would like to tell you. And for the implementation of PM E-Drive scheme, KSEBL has been designated as the state nodal agency. And we are running under Chief Engineer Rees, and Madam is the head of EV Accelerator Cell. Under us, a special team has been constituted. And the task of running this this PM E-Drive scheme in a timely and efficient manner, a team is already been set up. And for whatever queries and concern you can always reach out to EV Accelerator Cell, and we are more than happy to support you in making Kerala more than EV ready. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. The two presentations have clearly highlighted the policy intent, institutional readiness, and enabling mechanisms that are already in place. We will now take this discussion forward with the multi-stakeholder panel to examine how these frameworks translate into on-ground deployment for electric trucks. It is now my pleasure to invite the panelists for the panel discussion. Ms. Asha P.A., Chief Engineer and Head of EV Accelerator Cell, KSEBL. Mr. Ravindra Mohan, Director, Charge Zone. Mr. Arvind Subramanian, Head, Charging Infrastructure, Montra Electric. Mr. Raman, Co-founder and CEO, ChargeMod. Mr. Shobhit Saxena, Vice President, EY. Mr. Ajit Kumar, the Zero Emission Trucking Domain Expert. The session will be moderated by Kritika, Program Lead, ICCT.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being so patient. We had two very insightful presentations from KSEBL, which talked about the entire planning process for charging infrastructure in the state. And now I think that presentation which Sarjan gave covered the entire strategy for charging infrastructure. In this session, we are particularly looking at charging for trucks. Now, when we talk of electric mobility, we all talk about the usual suspects, which is two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and passenger vehicles. And we just heard from multiple speakers in the morning that the state is doing phenomenally well when it comes to passenger vehicle EV adoption. And of course, EV adoption in the freight segment, I think, is the next frontier, but it is undoubtedly the most complex one. And the reason being that it is sitting at the intersection of multiple components. One is power systems, land availability, vehicle technology, regulations, the entire logistics operation. So many components put together have to work, successfully for freight electrification to successfully happen in the state. Now, to understand what is required to build a viable e-truck ecosystem, we need to understand the entire freight operations in the state. And I think a very good plan, Kerala has a state logistics plan which throws some important insights there. It talks about some specific structural characteristics of freight in the state, freight movement in the state. First is, the freight is dominated by medium duty and regional trucks and not really long haul trucks or high tonnage vehicles. And second is, it also highlights the fact that Kerala, being a very densely populated state, has land constraints. And third is, the road widths are narrow. Now, when we want to make charging infrastructure for electric trucks, of course, it requires high capacity chargers, it requires land. These are one of the key elements for the charging infrastructure to scale for trucking segment. Now, this is where the PM drive scheme actually comes into focus and plays a very pivotal role. So I think the scheme, the guidelines are very clear and it sets the framework and the foundation. It provides subsidy for upstream infrastructure, which is the majority of the costs, like Sarjan had showed in his presentation, which is 70% of the costs. So I would like to say that while the PME drive operational guidelines, they give the flexibility to design the charging infrastructure looking at the local freight characteristics, it does not really automatically solve all the operational issues which are on the ground. And I think that is exactly what we are here to deliberate upon, and we have a very interesting panel comprising charge point operators, and we have Asha ma'am from KSEBL, who's directly going to respond to some of the questions which are looming in our minds. So I think with that context set, I also want to talk to you a little bit about how we are structuring the panel discussion. I think it will be done in two parts. The first part is where we will talk about, it's like an issue mapping, identification of all the dominant issues which are prevalent in the state for charging infrastructure, for trucks specifically. And the second part will comprise of the solutioning, where we will talk about how are we planning to overcome these challenges. I think with that context set, I would like to, just because Sarjan had presented and there's a good segue there, I would like to start with Asha ma'am first. Ma'am, you're from the DISCOM, so I would like to, pose my first question to you. So in Kerala, the nodal agency is the DISCOM itself, and I think that solves coordination issues to quite a large extent. But still, I think there are some operational challenges on the ground. And one of the things we keep hearing from multiple people is when you have to set up a charging station for catering to trucks, like a fleet of trucks, you need high capacity chargers. And of course, you need a HD connection. So the time required for getting an HD connection is a big problem. And in fact, even there are players who've stated that even LT connection at 60 kilowatt level takes a lot of time. So ma'am, I want to understand from you the process, what do you perceive are the operational challenges from the DISCOM side? And also, if you can talk to us a little bit about the timeline for HD connections in particular.
Thank you, Kritika, for calling me on behalf of DISCOM. First of all, KCB is ready to cater the supply, and we are, as per standard regulations are there, as per South Kerala State Supply Code. We are giving the supply to HT consumers actually within 2 months. That is the main timeline that we are bound to. For the charge point operators, actually, olden days, it is 30 or 60 kW, which can be fed from LT connections. But for the e-trucks and all, we already mentioned that it is around 120 kW or 150. That means it comes under HT connection. Normally, in DISCOM activities, this HT connection we can give. If the materials, every transformer and poles, etc. is available, we can serve within 1 month. That's quick. But the anxiety here exists is that this charge point operators, like everyone here, they will think if it is transformer is in our scope, KCB scope, it will be good. Because already mentioned that 70% of the cost is for EV infrastructure development and only 30% for the machines and all. So they are getting a favor from KCB if they are willing to do. But it is not possible. For the supply part, it is under the scope of these EV charge operators. Fortunately, in this EPM drive, the offer is there. Already mentioned that 80% of the amount will be granted from the ministry for this upstream work. So it will be lucky offer, and it is better to go for that EV drive. So the procedure here is when we get the application, we will check the feasibility. First, they have to search for the feasibility, whether it is good. The line part, that is HT feeder has to be free for catering this KW like 120 or 150 or 180 like that. So the transmission capacity has to be sometimes uplifted for this catering. So the substation feasibility and HT feasibility has to be get first case, and also the scheme approval. The drawing has to be prepared from the CBO, and it has to be get approved from electrical inspectorate. That is the main first step. After getting the feasibility from KSEB and the scheme approval from the electrical inspectorate, the work starts. Two options are there. If all the things, machinery and every transformer, RMU, etc. RMU means remote monitoring. This control is insisted in corporation only. RMU is insisted because in RAPDRP scheme, everything in this Ernakulam, Trivandrum, Kozhikode, etc. already implemented with RMU isolation. So for the future network development, RMU insisted. But in the panchayat or area, city other than that area, with isolator, the switching mechanism works. So RMU and the transformer, if it is delaying, it is good to prefer do by CPO only. The total estimate cost we will work out, and 10% of the estimate, that is a supervision charge that can be remitted in our KSEB office. Under the supervision of KSEB, we will support the operators and they can do entire work. If in other than city area, if total amount is deposited in as a deposit work, we will do entire work. Sometimes some shortage in KSEB poles is there, but when the demand is well known, we can arrange everything. So scheme approval and feasibility is the first case, and if the work is doing by the party itself, it is very easy and they can do within 2 months after getting the energization approval from the inspector. Because after the completion, a completion certificate has to be completion report has to be submitted to electrical inspectorate. They will verify everything as per the first approved drawing, and if everything is okay, safety issues and the statutory clearance, everything it's okay, then they will give the energization approval. Accordingly, DISCOM will energize the plant. So actually, if charge point operators are ready to invest for the estimate which is needed, and they are buying everything by their own under the supervision of KSEB, actually 1 or 2 months it is necessary. Some ambiguity in between the people is now delaying the project. That's all.
Okay, ma'am, that's thank you for that insight. So if I understand you correctly, as per the supply code, if everything is in order, then you say that 2 months is actually the timeline.
Yes, for the DTR transformer, it is that, and for 1 kilometer line, it is only 3 months. But for in good practice, we are ready to cater in more than 30 days. It's now. It's within 1 month we will give the connections if everything is ready.
Okay. I think at this point, Mr. Ravindra Mohan has, I'm sure, something interesting to say. So what is your opinion as a CPO?
No, before I give my opinion, Asha madam, just when we purchase transformer and downstream of the transformer, metering will be at ST or metering will be at LT? But what I mean say scope, that means tomorrow, due to some reason, if I have to shut down the charging station, can I take away the transformer?
No.
So, and that is the problem. See, we are talking of investment of 25-30 lakhs of 11 kV or 14.
But
14.
if you are depositing everything, it is your own.
Yeah, that is what I'm
It's
saying.
your own.
Yes.
Yes.
Only we have to pay supervision
Supervision
charges.
charge. If 10 lakhs is the estimate, 10% supervision charge, that is for supervision.
See, that
amount
means
only.
your metering will be at ST.
HT.
And
If the
that
contract
RMU.
demand is greater than 100, it will treat as HT.
And then
Otherwise,
all
it
the
will
all the installations are with us.
with us.
In case, due to some reason, after 5-7 years, we have to take out the
Then
ST
you
infrastructure,
have to dismantle the connection.
and we can take it. No?
Yes.
Just wanted clarification
Yes.
because there is some confusion.
Yeah, no.
Because
Just like a HT consumer.
we can. Okay. Sorry. Now I can come back to this. I don't think I can add much to what Sajan has told, but I'll just reiterate as a CPO. There are 5 things which PM E-Drive is trying to solve, and probably Kerala has put its thoughts everywhere. But to reiterate, or like a broken record, to repeat what Sajan has already told, so that it makes its mark on everybody in the hall. First is highway land and access on long-term lease, which becomes a problem because when you are talking of 3-4 crore investment, and generally from private players, we get 5-year, 7-year lease. And if it can be 15 to 30-year lease, the investment for us to get loan on that becomes easy, and it can go fast. That is our experience. As a charge zone, we have, as I speak, on highways, we have set up 25 plus supercharging stations, which are 240 kilowatt to 400 kilowatt. And we have 40 in offing where budgeting, everything is, that means cash is available with us to invest. As I speak, we are working on 28 sites, pan-India, and we will be more than happy to collaborate with KSEB to give you on 600 kilometer highway, which connects Mumbai to Kanyakumari and 600 kilometers part of Kerala, your 6 or 8 super fast next 3 months, if whatever we do is only the problem is land on long lease. Second is, as long as KSEB was the main CPO, fixed demand charges is not a problem. It is one pocket to other pocket. But when you're talking of 500 kilowatt, 1 megawatt of these things, and utilization being 4%, 5%, maximum 9%, this fixed demand charges become a big drain. You have removed?
It's removed.
Recently. Okay. Then it helps, and then probably we are there. Then second thing is, as I told, as Madam already told, if this ST line can be brought about 50 meters to wherever this high super fast 240 kilowatt plus charging stations are there, it will help us in optimizing cost, doing it fast. Because when I say 50 meters, there should be no right-of-way problem for the CPO, which becomes a problem if you give on the other side of the road. It never happens, not only anywhere in the country. So within 50 meters, if the ST line can be given, as Madam told, in 30 to 60 days, probably in 3 months we can set up a DC fast charging station. Then another thing, again, what we are finding while putting up this charging station pan-India, not only in South, and where you put the car or these things, those restaurants or amenities people do not allow trucks during the daytime because it says it spoils their clientele. The land they have given to a CPO for charging, see, you may charge for 500 rupees, 600 rupees at our station, but he goes and eats idli, dosha and for 2000 rupees in the restaurant. So for those footfalls they have given, and what 2 cars take, 1 truck takes. And that truck driver is not going to eat in those restaurants. So probably we can sit with KSEB and other institutions and decide which are the areas where maybe intercity buses and trucks, common hubs, with skeletal amenities can help in doing this. And as I told you, 5 to 6 stations, we can immediately, if we come to agreement, we can invest in Kerala on this NH66 as I speak. And in fact, I have been talking to your seniors and everybody showed interest, we will take it forward with help from all of you.
Thank you, sir. Very encouraging. I think at this point, I want to bring in a person from the OEM side, and we have Arvind here, who is from Montreal. So Arvind, we keep saying that the first use cases of electric trucks are going to be in the closed loop operations. And we've seen that in cement, there are pilot deployments in mining, other sectors, which predictable routes. So my question to you is, in Kerala, which use cases do you see getting the most traction? And how should the charging infrastructure be planned for such use cases?
See, Kerala, if you see, it's a specific market. It's a very attractive market, but at the same time, it is very segmented as well. I don't see much of use case in the long haul trucking which is going to happen in Kerala. But whereas if you see interstate or regional haul or intrastate will be more in Kerala. That's what I feel. So if you're considering that segment, what I will see is as a OEM, we are seeing at least 3 segments where more of focus is happening and even the logistic providers are showing interest. One is, as you told, is the closed loop fleet operations, where it's a fixed route for all these service providers, where they go in the fixed route and come back to the base charging station itself, where charging infra is not much of an issue for them. But yes, provided grid facility should be available for them to make the charging at their base locations. And the second one is the small commercial vehicle or a light commercial vehicle segment, where I will say it is majorly into urban and peri-urban areas. These majorly distribute on FMCG, e-commerce, even cold chain, as well as municipal logistics, all those stuff. That is one more segment which is coming up very fast, where there is a huge opportunity which is happening. And the last one, definitely the heavy duty trucks. But heavy duty trucks, I will say, as I told earlier, it's not the long haul, but linked towards the ports or construction engineering or those kind of industries where it is available. Aggregated to that, where the charging infrastructure has to happen. See, charging infrastructure, if you ask me, I will not say, Sajjan was explaining about the plan of charging infrastructure across Kerala, especially when pertaining to trucks. I will not say a blanket charging across the state. It has to be specific, linked to the duty cycle of the vehicles. So based on that, might be a logistic hub or a fleet hub where the utilization can happen, because as most of the CPOs say, utilization is the major problem. So it has to be aligned along with that. And yes, capacity wise, both are required. The 30 to 60 kilowatt, those kind of chargers for a smaller commercial vehicle or something, whereas higher capacity. But higher capacity, as I said, not on a blanket across the state, but it has to be on port links or specific segments depending upon the duty cycle of the vehicles.
Thank you, Arvind. You brought about a very important point regarding the deployment. So there are 2 kinds of views there. Whether charging infrastructure should be deployed in these anchor nodes, hubs that you say, or should it be like a distributed corridor-wide strategy? I think I would like to take in perspective of Mr. Ajit Kumar. So what is your opinion on how this should be planned for the state like Kerala? Whether it should be like a concentrated charging hub, or whether it should be spread across the state, like we are planning for corridor electrification of a couple of corridors like NH66 and 544.
Thank you, Kritika, and good afternoon, everybody. And I am very privileged to be part of this engagement and deliberation. And I am very happy to see that when a lot of things have been, Kerala was always pioneer in the, mentioned by Sajjan in his presentation, in taking up the schemes or taking up the new initiative, technology initiatives, and being the number 1 in India and across the global first also, some areas, and using the technology to the great advantage, and having the technical resource abundance in Kerala. So using all those things, Kerala is pioneer in those things. And then I see a lot of groundwork has been already been done in taking a deep study onto the ecosystem and being part of this ICCT ecosystem for the last 1.5 years and enabling, especially for the truck system enablement. And I am happy to see that one. Thanks for that initiative by KSEBL and Kerala, and also in collaboration with ICCT and other partners. So in the direct answer to this question, Kritika, is us being the ecosystem in Kerala prevalent, and also the absence of long-haul trucks majorly. And it is basically Kerala having the hub-based charging infrastructure will be the beneficial for the initial days. And it is basically to encourage more and more people to come, because if you invest heavily on this infrastructure across the breadth and length of Kerala, and then you don't see the utilization of those things, then it will be spreading negative sentiments across the new investors, and also it will be a burden for the people who are investing. And then it will be, you know, that positive news doesn't get in advertisement, whereas negative news will go in kind of an exponential way to the people. So I would say that it should be the hub-based, and then slowly you can go for a hybrid mode. And then later we can go, when the penetration of trucks across the country and across Kerala increases, more and more volume comes, now we can go for the corridors-based development also. So for that, I am not sure whether the heat map you already generated and then it shows the truck specific or the EV specific, what you have presented in your, so then we need to do a truck specific heat map and then see where are the truck is plying and where it is dwelling more time. Maybe minimum 30 minutes and more, they are stopping for a dwell time is there. And those locations we can identify, and then we can also identify the HT and then substation availability, because it also helps in putting up the infrastructure faster. If you wanted to put in a remote area and then you don't have the grid connectivity, and then it takes more time to set up the back upstream infrastructure and then to get it realized. So that way it need to happen. And then also we need to see the land availability. You already seen that location already been identified. So as Ravindraman just mentioned, the land on higher lease time, lease period will be definitely helpful, because it is a collaborative way you develop, then only it will be developing faster, and then we are going to scale up. Otherwise, putting the burden on who is the charge point operator, everything, or the government on the other side, and it's not going to help. It's a collaborative way you need to move for the green mobility, and it will be more sustainable. So that way I would say the hub-based charging infrastructure as a starting point, and then move to hybrid, and then you can go for the corridor-based once the volume picks up.
Thank you. That's a very interesting point.
Divergent view be given?
Yeah, absolutely.
I will beg to differ with you, Mr. Kumar. See, Sajan has done a study based on the so much data available, toll booths with the RMI and all. We on the business side, since we are having Billion E, which is a e-mobility trucking company, and CPO, coming from the business side, probably we have, before I saw a presentation, we had 2 corridor identifiers which we wanted to propose. One was Coimbatore, Palakkad, Thrissur, Kochi, which because of the goods that you transport, trucks are running. That is one route. So instead of hub, probably given the e-mobility traction in Kerala, I will go with Sajan's thing on route. Probably instead of not 25, 50, maybe 100, 150 kilometers we can start with. The second one is Mumbai, Kanyakumari, which goes Mumbai, Goa, Mangalore, Kannur, Calicut, Kozhikode, Kochi, Trivandrum, Kanyakumari. Total is 1650 kilometers. Around 660 falls in Kerala. This, if it is done, because, why I am saying this? Because there are 3 ports, Kochi, Vizhinjam and Calicut. With Adani taking over Vizhinjam, export container traffic is going to come. Long haul 55 tonners, and those we already put around 20 to 55 tonners on the road, and another 50 are ordered with Ashok Leyland. FMCG, tires, e-commerce, seafood, refrigerated trucks, rubber, and these are the which go for long distances and generally use these 2 corridors. So probably with business size study, we feel corridor taking up first with the limited cash available. Yes, as a state government, we can put in hub to make these things, but as a commercial business where charge points can be used, I will like to go. Only one request is, if government agencies can do aggregation of the loads, so that return trip of the trucks can be organized. The problem is, one way you get a load, problem you are facing is, so some area work, since so many of agencies are collaborating, aggregation may be public sector load or private. in collaboration with e-mobility companies can be done that will help in further giving load to these corridors. My suggestion. That's all.
I would have got misunderstood because I am not saying that don't go with the corridor at all. I'm saying that the major concentration should be for the hub-based. Being the ecosystem is like that in Kerala, but the major alternative like NH 544 and NH 66, it is getting developed. Now, this also has to be connected because this is Kerala is a consumer state. Now, most of the things are coming from other states, and this corridor, the Bangalore, Kochi, or Mumbai, the Kanyakumari, these are all then the identified corridor by the PSA office and Ministry of Heavy Industries. So this can be, this nodal points as identified in your percentage can be taken point, and then additionally for bringing the e-mobility to a higher level. So if you go corridor approach across Kerala in the beginning, there it won't be, it will be counterproductive. So whether we can go for the hub-based, like connecting the portal in Virinjam and Valapadam, and other areas. So that way we can do it. And also the warehousing stations and industrial parks which is coming up. So these points can be taken as hub-based charging, and where we have the land availability, power availability, and also the truck availability. It's all points are there. So that way we'll be able to de-risk it, and then utilization can be better.
Understood. I think I would also, Shobit, you're also here, and you've worked a little bit on charging infrastructure assessment and done studies on e-mobility in Kerala. I want to understand like the regular framework for citing charging infrastructure for other vehicles. Of course, we are talking of an entirely different segment here. So do the factors need to be weighted differently for planning for charging infrastructure for trucks? And the second question to you is, what kind of regulatory and policy interventions do we need to scale up charging infrastructure deployment for trucks specifically in Kerala?
Hi, thank you for that question, and good afternoon everyone. When we talk about this EVCI deployment, the first thing that always comes to my mind, and I have always been advocate of it, that the location assessment has to go hand in hand because it gives good visibility to the charging stations. It gives good utilization, adequate returns, and obviously timely connections over there. So when we talk about multiple factors we should consider while setting up charging stations, the first and foremost, which I feel that the most weightage should be given to the readiness of the grid. So because if we are able to find a place, the grid is available, it's fine. But until that grid is not ready to supply that power, that load to the charging stations, there's no point of setting those charging stations. I would like to quote one example of one of the CPO, Energy Efficiency Services Limited. So they set up the charging stations at Noida. They found a place, they set up the charging station, but they could not get the connection even after 7 to 8 months of deploying those charging stations. And all those charging stations are lying obsolete over there. So this is the very important factor which we should consider. Also, when the charging stations of such high power capacity are being installed, it involves the cost, it also involves the time in network augmentation. And both directly impacts the economics of the charging station which is being installed over there. So this is one of the foremost the factor which we should consider while setting up the charging station. The second is the land availability. See, the availability of land should not be judged only by its size. Rather, it should be judged that what all nearby point of interest are available, how that land is being utilized for multi-purposes. For example, if we are targeting the land such as the corridors like NS66 you mentioned, the port areas. So if such areas are being targeted first to set up a charging station, obviously we are going to get some utilization, some assured utilization from that side, rather than putting a standalone separate big charging stations which would be requiring the lot of network augmentation. The third factor which I think should be the economic activity of the state. So unlike the Delhi or the Maharashtra where we have large central freight hubs at one places, over here it is quite decentralized. We have different smaller places where the freight movement is there. So accordingly, the key areas should be targeted first. Like I mentioned, the port areas, some of the corridors, some of the highways, the NH66, NH544, those areas we should target first. The next one is the geography of the state and the environmental conditions. Like if we move to the eastern side of the state, it's quite hilly, mountain region are there. So it has steep inclines over there where the power consumption would be much higher compared to the normal flatter terrain. Also the monsoon, it plays a very important role. Kerala gets a lot of heavy rainfall, which may also impact the operations of the trucks as well as the operation of the charging stations. So while finalizing this site, we should see that whether it's not affected by the heavy rainfall. The trucks are able to get easy access, easy exit from the narrow, steep slopes areas. So all those things should be considered. And also at the last, I would say this last mile connectivity and the port area, because Kerala has a lot of ports. So the trucks often move in and out. They travel shorter distance, but frequent travel is there. So accordingly, those areas should be targeted first. So that, that in case in future there is some changes in the technology, something is there, so those can be targeted later upon. So yes, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Shobit, for bringing about these important points, specifically on grid availability and the location of these charging stations. I think I would want to now go to the last speaker who's not spoken yet, Mr. Ramanunni from Charge Mode. So under PME Drive, we have to comply with the PMP guidelines. Now my question is the domestic charger manufacturing ecosystem, are there these chargers available which are complying with the PMP guidelines? Do we have truck-grade chargers at scale in India? And what gaps do CPOs actually face? So if you can throw some light there.
First of all, thank you ICCT, KSEBL for having us here. So it's a very hard question because I've got too many OEMs here, too many manufacturers here. I'm not supposed to answer anything, but as per my understanding, since the electric heavy trucking, big diesels are turning into heavy electrics in terms of trucks, right? So right now, since PME Drive has mandated the PMP guidelines to be followed in terms of domestic manufacturing, the primary thing that I think that is involved is basic electricals, mechanical aspects. I think that has been mandated from 2021 itself. So from 2021, basic electrical parts, basic mechanical parts, enclosures, all those sort of things has been mandated. And those things has been domestically produced from 2021. And the crux part, which is the AC-DC controller or AC-DC converter, which is in the charger, is mandated to be produced or completely domesticated from December 1, 2025. So this month, from the beginning of this month, it is supposed to be 100% locally manufactured. That is something that many manufacturers, many OEMs that we work with, we had been working with 25 plus OEMs in the country. So many of those guys are still looking forwards to that side. And then the third part is the CCS2 aspect of the charger, right? In that segment, I think we are still a little bit dependent. I think it was June 2024 or something where CCS2 components had to be domesticated. So these are the three aspects, as per my understanding, that needs to be identified and domesticated to comply with the PMP aspects, right? So mostly right now, I think all major manufacturers are in a run to get all the things done. Specifically, since PME Drive is upon the game, and I think manufacturers are ready, but there are certain limitations as well for the manufacturers who are in the space. I'd say that as well. But right now, at this stage, yes, the domestic market is ready with its own set of problems to give us the products. That's what I would say.
Okay. So your short answer is yes, the indigenization is happening, but at a slow pace. Okay, got it. Maybe we can now we've talked about a lot of issues now. Maybe it's time to reflect upon some of the solutions that we are thinking of to scale up charging infrastructure deployment. Asha ma'am, I'll start with you first. What do you feel are the major interventions which a DISCOM can take to smoothen out these issues that you've spoken about? So for example, just pointing this, MOP guidelines says that up to 150 kilowatt is LT. whereas every state has its own supply code, and many states, they mandate, some states have like till 60 kilowatt, or other have till 100 kilowatts. So there is a lot of diversity. So, and every state has to abide by the supply code. So in that sense, either the regulator has to come out with the new guidelines, new regulations. What do you feel, is that really one of the solutions that need to happen? What do you feel are some of the interventions that we need to take to smoothen out some of the challenges for charging infrastructure?
Actually, many challenges are going on now. First of all, the existing charging stations, we already have some issues there with that discoverability, interoperability, and other visibility, etc. Also, the demand has to be known by us. As DISCOM, we have to give the supply to all charge points. So, data from the charge point operators has to be get to DISCOMs to take the load management well. So these regulations regarding this LT and HT, it is under the process now. This 150 category that has to be done by KCRC and all. Anyway, the guideline for the EV charging stations are also going on, and it is processing. In that case, then A+ free charging stations shall to be given in the picture. So we this in Palarivattam, we just tried its model, and also for as per the new guidelines, we means that the government insists that the new charge point operators shall have this discoverability in the dashboard itself. It has to be visible whether the locations near to the vehicle is ready for charge, the gun is free or not, it is live or not. And also that anxiety or anxiety has to be reduced for the customers. Also, this multiple wallet and multiple apps, it creates a lot of issues. So, app plus stations. And a minimum facility with UPI or Google Pay, that has also to be there in the new charging stations. And after implementing these new guidelines, the existing charging stations operators has to come with this new facility within 6 months. Let us discuss everything in this, and we can resolve the issues which is pertaining now. This load demand, that is a major criteria for DISCOMs. If we get that demand, that real-time or dynamic data, which is necessary for DISCOMs to do the work, because this RE's penetration is more in the solar hours, and the excess power we injected into the grid has to be utilized by some means. And if e-truck and buses are coming to charge in the daytime, it will be good for the DISCOMs to resolve our issues in the grid, and also the peak power management can be done smoothly, so that the system, customer, and users, everyone are happy. Also the tariff is also varying. For the peak, it will be more. So when the tariff is reduced in the morning time, it will be beneficial for the users. So this, everything has to be going hand by. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for that insight, and really commendable initiative by KSEB on this smart charging guidelines and the app-less, payment interface that you're pioneering. So it's very interesting to know that. I'll go to Mr. Ravindra Mohan. Sir, do you feel that the PM eDrive's focus on upstream infrastructure, it actually sufficiently addresses all the business risks that a CPO faces? Like, is it sufficient to address?
Yeah, it is sufficient so that we can take the balance risk. See, no business is without risk. The more risk, more gain. So you cannot make in any business risk zero. And business thrive only when you take risk and do it. So yes, it is going to help. But as Sajin just told, so many blocks are there for them to convince. By the time the market will go away, if they take 3-4 months to get sanction and then place orders to purchase. So I don't think they are looking less than 6 months window for ST infrastructure by DISCOM to be in place. Am I right? So that is, and the opportunity doesn't wait. The problem with the business is opportunity. Today it is there. Adani port coming up, container traffic increasing. Adani anyway is going to put their own thing in their port. Their port logistic, they are going to, my discussion with them is they are going to do it, probably by themselves. Now, by leveraging that, if you can electrify the highway, then all containerized 55-tonner vehicles can go. Now, either if you don't do it next 3 months, it loses. Now, then people who have purchased a ICE 55-tonner tractor is not going to replace with EV tractor. So, that is a challenge. Time is of essence, and we will be more than happy to discuss, engage beyond what KSEBL has to bring in the funding and see that in next 3 to 4 months we can put some of these things to make it viable.
Yes, please.
Adding to what Mr. Ravindra Mohan told, see, if you ask me whether the upstream infra, PM area will solve this issue, see, definitely it's a first step to solve this issue. But does this upstream infra alone de-risk what CPU is going to face on the projects? Definitely not. There are other risks for the CPOs, especially on the low utilization. There is no too much of uncertainty on the utilization. And I will say mismatch between the chargers and the vehicle capacities. Even he was also mentioning about the access in the chargers. See, a lot of charging stations today, will it be accessible for commercial vehicles? I'm not very sure whether all the chargers. Even I am aware that a couple of KSEB chargers itself not possible for commercial vehicle to access. So that is one of the major problem as on date. So while this PME drive scheme becomes as a stepping stone, but a coordination between the stakeholders like OEM, CPOs and DISCOMs, which makes it more viable by sharing the information of data which is the deployment plan that the OEM has, where the vehicle is going to run, and what is the duty cycle of the vehicles, what will be required as a charging capacity in that particular route. So this coordination becomes whether the foundation what is laid through this PME drive, it can be converted to a bankable asset or not. So that's what I feel which is majorly important on this.
Thank you so much for that insight. Yes. Yes.
What he has told is actually 100% correct. Why? What I said taking risks is because we have advantage of e-mobility. Billion E is the one where trucking is there, and we see some sort of advantage. Now risk is, can we create supply so demand will follow? And probably yes. We as a overall stakeholders should be able to create the supply of charging so that demand will follow. That is what I just want to add.
Thank you, sir. Shobhit, coming to you. If the truck demand in Kerala in the next 5 years scales up like it goes double, what do you think are the top 2 or 3 on-ground interventions which need to happen for it to be very seamless? And specifically the fact that Kerala is a land-constrained state, and it's one of the very essential basic building blocks to build charging infrastructure. So how do we solve for the land issue in Kerala? To my mind, it appears as one of the top interventions. So given the ecosystem that Kerala has, the context, how do we solve for this, and what according to you are the other interventions that need to happen?
Okay. So first I'll answer the previous question. I think I missed to answer that question. I'm audible, I guess, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So regarding that regulatory constraints which you had asked previously, so what I feel is that, with respect to tariff, Kerala has a very good tariff. They have a dedicated EV tariff. They have a time of day pricing. They have also removed recently the fixed demand charges. So it's very progressive now. But some kind of confidence needs to be given to investors that these tariffs will remain stable for next 5 to 7 years or 8 years down the line. Because tariff also plays a very important role in driving the overall the financial part of the setting up charging stations. So if that some kind of certainty can be provided from that aspect, then it will give some kind of confidence to the investors as well, because lot of investment comes as a part of getting grid connections. So that is very important. And second, as sir mentioned, if some kind of key public locations can be provided to CPOs on a long-term lease. So that will also give some boost to the to CPOs to set up the charging stations. So these are the key two prominent regulatory certainty which I feel that which can be provided from the side of the government to the CPOs. Coming to your question regarding that if the demand boosts up, then what are the key areas which should be targeted? So as of now, as I mentioned before, obviously that the land plays a very important role, and Kerala being geographically not a very big state, it has a very limited land, and the land is fragmented as well. The space is quite fragmented. So moving forward, the first is the key areas should be targeted. As I mentioned, the key corridors should be targeted first. The port area should be targeted first. And the KSEB or the CPO, they should not target to set up one standalone big charging stations at one place. So rather than, smaller size charging stations with continuity at multiple places, if in that manner, if it is being installed, it will also give a good visibility. The number of charging stations will also increase, and the truck drivers, they can have their own pit stops. So, and also, as sir mentioned, that the truck drivers, they are not being allowed to charge where the normal cars are being charged. So they have their own places where they stop. So those places should be targeted for charging the trucks, along with the focus on the ports, the corridors, and the highways. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any other perspectives if you would like to share, anyone? Or, yeah.
So this is just still in the development stage for the truck, as I said earlier. So in the beginning stage now, if everybody and everything has to be done by individual players, it will be very difficult to move forward in the penetration or adoption or transition. So the collaboration is very important, and there the OEM can share the data of what is their plan for, or what is the demand they are having for new volumes and new models lineup, and it will help the charge point operators for getting up to their activities, and can be also given to the discoms, so that they will be able to make the availability of the grids across the corridors. And this that way the collaborative working, it will be a win-win situation for all of us, and then that way it will be it can de-risk to a certain extent, and then also the data sharing also improve. What is the further fine-tuning and then course correction required to when you go for the scaling up in future. So that way the transition can be more seamless as well as successful if you work collaboratively.
That is the main issue for the DISCOM. This demand for the 60 or 120 kW once in 3 kilometers, it's tolerable and we can adjust. Say hub, when it comes a high demand, our substation nearby, that has to be checked, and a development for the substation. So we need a detailed study where the load center will be, and accordingly our substation has to be strengthened so that we can address these issues. So a collaborative discussion and action is needed among DISCOM and operators, and the prevailing data that has to be shared to DISCOMs. Nowadays the energy meter reading monthly we are taking, and only the monthly consumption data is only available. We need a real-time and dynamic load pattern, so that currently what is it and what has to be done for the future, and the highly expecting demand that has to be covered in our budget also in the strengthening of transmission, because in the PME drive grant, no transmission cost is included in that. So we have to learn well so that the entire project can be completed well in the. So it's very good project, which is both benefit to DISCOMs and the CBO. The afternoon session, this C category application registration through the web portal will be announced by our Honorable Minister. All the CPO can enter to the program through Part C, and government and other PSUs are leading the role with giving the land parcels from our side for a leading project implementer, and the you people, CPOs are the main role who has to do the entire homework for our study and for completion. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Asha madam. I just want to add one suggestion which I can make as we are going to close it is use the renewable energy. We have been talking to Karnataka. We are in fact trying to run a pilot of 3 megawatt there. We are opening, I don't know exact rules which Kerala has about the open access. Do they allow third party renewable parks to be set up and different users to use it, and they are ready to transmit it to green energy, as well as since we have a lot of rooftops, probably distributed generation. We are, in fact, as a child, we have already set up 100 kilowatt hour to 1.2 megawatt hour of battery energy system, generally in south, which are functioning as of now today on our charging station to give backup as well as to utilize this renewable energy. We are more than happy to do this with you so that the pressure on transmission line goes down. If we can use the renewable energy which is generated locally through rooftops and give encouragement through the PM Yojana, it is one solution which probably can be done provided state can work with private players closely and enables the open access of 100 kilowatt. And suppose I have group captive or something where I can 1 megawatt I take it, and then you distribute it, so everything becomes green as you spoke in the morning. Thanks.
We are actually, we are actually planning for the battery storage system. In the meanwhile, first 500 megawatt hour in Mailati through SECI, it is awarded to JSW and the groundwork already started. That is 4 hour storage. And the second phase through NHPC we tendered, and Tata, Opera and NTPC took the work. This is Pothango, Dairy Code, Sekandapuram and Mullaria. This is also, land is already handed over to the developers, and this financial closure is going on. And then the third phase in Brahmapuram, we are again putting one battery storage, again 500 megawatt hour with a 2 hour cycle, 2 hour storage. So totally 1,500 megawatts. So totally now the rooftop solar is reaching 2,000 megawatt here in Kerala. It is 1 or 2 in India. We are winning that rooftop, but our grid is in stress now. So this coming to this battery storage, we can absorb this power to storage and we can use in the peak time. So this, especially for e-truck and all, if it is coming into peak time, it will be very burden to us. So charging these things in solar hours with a discounted price as tariff, which can be real-time monitor from the dashboard, so that these EV truck users can be attracted to low tariff in the solar hours will be benefit too. That will go for a win-win solution. So battery storage is in our leading project, and we are now supposed to do decentralized distribution also, so that in LT level also we can do that. Okay. Yes, yes. Now this VGS support is tapering. The first stage 28 lakhs per megawatt hour is offered by the MOP, and now it is reduced to 18 lakhs per megawatt hour. Anyway, we are in good effort in that.
Yeah, Arvind, you wanted to?
Yeah.
The last.
Just one point to the Asha ma'am on this. See, adding to what Mr. Ravindra Mohan told, I have one specific request. See, basically now we are, sorry, Kerala as a state now, there is no question of if for trucking for electrification of trucking segment. So because the opportunity is definitely there. So we see as on date, there are more opportunities in predicted duty cycle segments where the route is fixed and all those stuff. So here what happens, the fleet operators are also putting up captive hubs along with the CPOs to cater to their needs alone. So does KSEBL support on AV tariff for these captive hubs also? Because it was earlier mentioned in the policy framework on captive hubs as well. But in the recent times, I am seeing that it's only for the public charging hubs, not for the captive hubs. But as a trucking segment comes to the picture, so as on date, if there is not much of public charging infrastructure, and to achieve the TCO for the fleet operators, definitely that support will be the very much useful for them so that it grows fast. That's my humble request to you on that, if that can be considered.